Day 8. So I'm going to ask you quickly, what word would you use to describe 8 here?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's God is the big
Okay.
word of 8 and happiness. I
Yeah.
just find that fascinating that God and happiness have the exact same numeric vibration because we search for God as much as we search for happiness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. People get so charged when you say the word God and these religious connotations. But in my opinion, the things I've gone through in life and the point I'm at now, I just really see it as this true connection with this field of consciousness or the spirit or that kind of thing. So just to get that out of the way for people that this is not like a religious conversation. But
oh, yeah, no, but hopefully we can clarify what God is, what that energy is.
yes, we're speaking, I think that's a good way to put it, the energy of it.
Yeah, because it has become the personification of an idea. And in the process of personifying it, we actually lose sight of what that really means.
It feels separate.
It feels separate. I mean, who thinks of God and happiness being synonymous? What are we searching for when we're searching for God?
Yeah.
We don't think about those things. So I think it fits well, too, as we talked about yesterday, having that split, of how you get to the 6. You can either do it from the ascending path, or the descending path.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting because as I was just referring to the tarot decks again, numerology is really incorporated in that whole like card series. So in the 8 of Cups, it's called, it says the pull of unseen energy, and it shows like a salmon. And, when it gets that call to spawn, it's got to swim upstream. It's got to go, and it's leaving behind, and it's making some sacrifices to do that. And then the rest throughout the swords, throughout the different suits, the swords is like a mole coming from underground, and he's above ground. So he has to use, he has to tap into different senses to keep going. And I think that, all of this stuff kind of really goes along with, if you were on this hero's journey to exercise more connection and to have, your own ideas and that kind of stuff, you might go back to people or situations that are still, lost in the sauce, and you have to be the one that's like, no, this is what's right for me, and this is what I'm doing moving forward because it brings me happiness. It brings me these things.
Yeah, and so in that line, when I was preparing for this, just looking over some words, the first thing that jumped out at me is a need fulfilled is the same as God. And you think about that. I mean, you're on a hero's journey. Whenever I know very few people in life, whether, even people that don't, go to church, they're not religious minded. When they get in a jam, most of us call out to God. We say, God, help me. Or, so when you're at wit's end and you don't know what to do, that is a common thing we do. And, just seeing God as a need fulfilled, because we say, thank you, God, when the needs are fulfilled, whether you're religious or not.
Yeah.
A lot, it just seems like a natural thing off of the tongue. Thank you, God. And so to just appreciate it from an energy in that standpoint, and it has, as we were talking about, as we progress along the line here, we have we got to the 6 being the fulfillment of the experience or the awareness of the experience or the state of being from the experience. And we either get there and think we did it all by ourselves. It's all about us. We're self-identified. And then we go along and we don't bridge back to something because we came from somewhere. We got to bridge to something. We leave here and we go to somewhere.
Right.
I mean, if you haven't had a near-death experience, that's not conclusive, but depending on your sense of connection, there's a feeling of what that is. Right? And so we can go through life saying, I got this. It's all about me. I can do this. Let's set your goals. And that's the way we're actually trained. We're either trained that, leave it up to some God in the sky, and there's that truth there because there's that descending. So we think, oh, we don't have any responsibility. It's all God, or we have to like, no, I don't need you.
You're not real. This isn't real.
Yeah. because also what goes along with this vibration and this energy is trust and faith.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the things we think about when we think about God. You know,
Yeah.
and we don't know where things come from. Yeah, we think it's through our efforts and everything, but we don't know. We really don't know how our needs are being fulfilled.
Yeah.
But what I love about this process is if you take it from the standpoint of, you know, we said there's a way of going with the creative process via vortex math, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're at the number 4, right? And rather than going straight to the experience, what you do is at the number 4, you have to have, it's the consciousness, it's your state of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your state of mind is your consciousness. That goes to the 8. That goes to God. You go, okay, God, this is it. You know, this is where I'm at. What do you have for me? And so that's why people go, well, why do bad things happen to good people? You know, we don't realize it's that state of consciousness at the 8 the 4, that will project out to, that will be, you know, I don't know, squared as God. You know, who is that connection, is that actualizes also there. You know, it's what's interesting too is from the standpoint of quantum. So we can look at God as the source of life, not source per se, but the source of life.
Yeah.
You know, and appreciate that. One more thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
But just appreciate that life. You know, what helps me a lot is to you know, I mean, I thought it was interesting one day I went on a little jog and there really isn't a definition for life. Right. You know, I mean, it's very subjective, whether you want to look at it biologically, whatever. So I went, oh, wow. For me, just appreciating that life is experience. Mm-hmm. So God is the source of our experiences. So go ahead.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to bridge that too, that, you know, life is an experience, and it's interesting that, you know, we get these physical bodies for it, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's really, we're electrical beings, you know, we're energy beings. We really are. Right. I know that used to sound so far-fetched, but when as technology continues to advance and we're starting to really, I think even science, especially what comes out of like the military and that, you know, they're really starting to, I won't even say admit is the word, but sort of just let humanity in on the secret or what. And you know,
they've always known. Yeah.
And I mean, and I was thinking the other day, I was really kind of like stuck on this. I was like, is humanity truly not ready to know some of these things? Or like, you know, and that's where I was saying to you yesterday, like I got in this whole, like my 20s, I had this whole Rage Against the Machine type energy behind me because I was pissed off that this stuff wasn't freely accessible. But then, you know, even kind of just all of us reassessing what's been going on recently, I've sat back and gone, well, maybe humanity really hasn't been ready to handle all of this information. But, and I can tell you, you know, it's so funny too. From when I was younger, you know, I told you, and I put it on my Instagram at some point, that I used to have these out-of-body experiences, and, you know, I had 2 near-death experiences, and when I was, like, the out-of-bodies were happening a lot when I was 16, like 14, 15, 16 years old, and I had a couple where, you know, I saw the light, and I got close to it, and it was like, it's not your time yet, and I know all this stuff sounds crazy, but at the time, the only thing accessible to me was NDERF, NDERF, is the Near Death Experience Research Foundation.org. Anyone can look them up. And they have just thousands of accounts of people having these experiences. And they're all, I mean, it's amazing the similarities between all of these disparate people worldwide. And, you know, bless those psychologists that actually like put this database together. But it gave me a lot of comfort knowing other people had gone through it. And what I find really so funny is that once I got into corporate world, it was like I just forgot all that stuff. Like I just lived completely disconnected for a decade. And then,
that's why you crashed so hard too.
That's why I crashed so hard. I mean, when it really got to the point where I was like just so unfulfilled, my needs weren't being fulfilled, I just had to readdress this side of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even in this 8 energy of just like the salmon getting that call, it was like I just couldn't go back. I just couldn't. And I get that people don't understand it, and I get that people, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a great amount of denial, because one of the things that always fascinated me when I was nursing and in psych wards is the illusions of grandeur that people had were always around God or something religious. They were always, that was all, and the schizophrenic break is someone's having a kundalini experience of their energy happening before they have the capacity. You know, so yeah, there is something as far as saying, are people ready? You know, before they're physically, their body has the capacity to channel that much energy. You know, and what's so interesting is, as I developed this work, I started, you know, I wanted to speak with people who had that experience to see if they understood what their attention was and what their emotions were, and they could actually choose and not get hijacked emotionally, would that same thing have occurred? And you know, a couple of people I've been able to speak to was no. So it's not like this, you know, but yet at the same time, we make it like this supernatural thing, you know, like, I mean, I even remember, like, as a teenager, I read Sybil, the book Sybil, you know, when God, yes.
Yeah.
And that always, I was just like, wow, you know, then especially after I started working, you know, with schizophrenics and stuff, I would go, now, wow, how is that possible? You know, and for someone to have totally different symptoms based on the personality they were being in the moment, and physically you could test that. You know, it's just like, wow. And that's the power of our attention and our thoughts and our state of beings that we create.
I really wonder too, like, why we've shut this down for so long. I mean, people that go through these things, you know, my dad's uncle was one of them. He was schizophrenic and he ended up killing himself. You know, there's just so many people that, and even me, I mean, I was tested and all the things. And I mean, this was like a huge, very hidden part of me that I dealt with by myself, because I knew it wasn't accepted. And I knew if I told a therapist, I was going to get put on drugs, and then I really wasn't going to be myself. So how can so many people go through these experiences, and why isn't there room for us?
Well, I think a large part of it is, as you said, I don't think we've been ready. You know, we're dawning now on the cosmic consciousness to realize, oh, wow, because, you know, we're at the point that we're having flooded with so much information and data, which is interesting too. Information and data is also the same energy as God. Memory is too. So it's just the storehouse, you know, and most of us, I mean, knowing from doctors and being in people that we were on the other side, the people that were so-called crazy over on the other side, there wasn't much understanding of that experience. No. You know, it wasn't, you know, it was just, and since we come from the standpoint of when we're not connected, the only thing we can do is control. That's what was done. It was, how can we control this situation? You know, and the reason being to keep them and us safe. How much stuff do we do?
Well, you know, it's so funny that you bring that up, because, God, Rachel and I were just having the craziest conversation today. There's all this regulation, suggested regulation coming down about cryptocurrencies and stuff. And we both said it's so frustrating that the government has to regulate before we can let anything express itself naturally, you know, in the terms of safety and security. And it's just, we do this in almost every area you can think of. Why are we so afraid of expression?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're taught that by people that want to control our expression. You know, for whatever reason, it's the dance of life. You know, I don't believe there's, like, you know, it's the polarity of experience, because, you know, even back to the standing wave, what a standing wave is, two waves going in opposite directions. So we have these polarity of experiences that need to come together to balance themselves out. And so, you know, there's the people on one side, there's the, you take care of me, you know, make me safe. I can't do this. And on the other side is, I'll help you, but that means I also too will control you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that, it caught my eye and I went, wow, okay, this is something to reflect on, because obedience has the same energy as God too. And we're taught to be obedient to God. So a lot of, there is a feeling of being obedient because, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're allowing an experience. And so in that, we feel we have to be obedient. But then there are people that came along that are playing God and saying, I can make you safe. I can do this for you. You be obedient to me.
Yeah.
And that's, and when you really understand God, so many of the things that are said in the Bible and scriptures make more sense. Like not
100%.
to have more than one master. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we've learned to have a government as a master rather than
Mm-hmm.
God, which is the source of life.
I was
not
just
some person, not some being,
yeah.
but the source of life.
We're totally
That's
on
the
the
only
same
thing that can
wavelength.
keep you, that's the only thing that can keep you safe.
Yep. We're on the same wavelength because before you even said that, I was thinking how, people talk about, the fear of God. And for a long time, that's why I was like, God isn't real. Like what? He's really not going to let me into the pearly gates because I said the F word or, whatever.
Right.
But
He's going to damn you.
Yeah.
That's why I grew up. God's going to come down and damn you. I'm like,
Might me, yeah.
Wait, who is that?
I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a cool
God. I don't want a
God.
God like that.
Exactly. But after I had this whole vision and everything that happened to me, I had this, I could understand even fear. I was like, it was more of a fear of like, if I don't follow this path, if I don't go this way, I'm a dead woman walking. Whatever, what does anything mean after that? So it's, and two, there was another, sorry, I can't lean forward or else I get the sun. In the other part of the tarot, the Eight of Pentacles, there's a line that says, do what you do because it means something to you and you alone. Ultimately, you are the one rewarded or left paying the price. And I think that's what I sort of felt was like, it's really not up to somebody else to make my life meaningful. Like I'm the one that has to do this. And it's a lot easier when you're, for me at least, when I feel like I've got the conscious field support as opposed to so much resistance that I experienced prior to that. Like just let the energy flow. We organized it in 7, so let it flow,
Right. And wouldn't you know that self-author is the same numeric vibration as God. Not that exactly the same, but it's that 8, self-author. So that's what we're how can we say that? When you really look at what God is, and really appreciate what we're trying to do with that connection, having the faith, having the trust, what that means. What our role is actually having the attention to allow this to come in because, your attention is also God.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You see, so it kind of connects all back to itself. And I think it's an important point to bring out here too, is on the other side of that, the new age, or I don't know what you want to call it, the new spirituality comes from the standpoint of I am God.
Yeah.
And that doesn't quite feel right to me because it's a personification.
Right. Oh my God. That's such a good point. That's such a good point. And I respect everybody's views and I chill and sit back when I hear a lot of stuff, but I'm the same way. Like all the coaches and the teachers out there that are like, you just got to know I'm God, you're God. And it's like, well, we're not all just walking gods. There is this one field that, like you said, we come from the one, we separate, we come back, but yeah,
we are walking gods from the standpoint of we're that energy, but when you put it from the standpoint of I am God, you're personifying it.
Yes.
Little things can really, and that's what I love about this work and looking at words. Little discernments make so much difference. Because once you personify it, then the ego just has to get involved. So then the feathers have to get ruffled and there has to be proving and that, and then when you start to prove something, you're going down, so. It's
interesting too, that a lot of in the tarot with the 8s, there's a lot of this breaking free from anything that tied you down, making the sacrifice. And it's still in 7, we were letting go of things. But I think in 8, it really is letting go of that material master and just in giving into the flow of energy and that kind of stuff.
But that's when you're successful, because remember now, we're doing the descending.
Right.
So from the standpoint of allowing and trusting and faith and saying, you know, a need is fulfilled, and then projection is also there, demonstrate, and goodness are all the same, you know, and also the quantum's about that whole thing of, you know, the demonstration or the projection rather. So, you know, it's a projection, and then that we have that vision from the projection at the 7. So it's actually like you're watching a movie at the 7. You know, that vision is just unfolding when you're just allowing yourself to be a part of the energy and a co-creator, if you want to call it that, a co-organizer of energy.
Did you ever read the 5 agreements? Well, it was originally called the 4 agreements. And he updated it. There's a 5th now.
Oh, okay.
The 5
I haven't gotten
agreements
to
now.
the 5, but I got the 4.
But I love the first, I think it starts off with like, you know, picture you're walking into a movie of your life and you're watching and you're the star of the show and everyone else is a supporting character. But if they walked into the next movie theater and you watched one of their movies, you'd be a supporting character in their movie, you know, and it really helped. Like, when I read that, I was like, I had just so much more respect for everybody. Everybody is on their own path. We are all individual expressions. And I mean, it is just amazing how much is just control in our sphere right now.
Yeah, totally. But, you know, once again, we can buy that or we can choose to not buy that, you know, and, you know, we'll get to consenting tomorrow, but we can choose to well, define our reality, you know. I mean, that's kind of, how could I say this in a way that, you know, because it's so wild. We have our own reality and a collective reality. So I'm trying to bridge those two, you know.
I think for me, I always
say,
like, we're alive right now, you know, like we really are in the year 2020. I live in the United States. So like, to me, that's like the conscious reality. But then I do understand that I also have this, like, you know, spiritual access to everything and anything. So I guess that's how I always like separate it.
Yeah, but also too, when we go back from the beginning, what we see is based on our perception. You know, so I mean, you know, there's a lot more. I think it's going to be coming out even more and more and more. How much free will do we really have? Are we in a script, you know, that's already been preordained in some way or fashion, you know, and I don't know, but just. I
was just talking about, remember, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I found out about like the Farmer's Almanac. My grandfather always had it. And I started like reading it and I was like, how do these people just know what the weather is going to be? And like, I don't know, like a month ago, I was like, maybe they just follow this thing. Like maybe they weren't really, like maybe it wasn't this premonition or this prophecy, or maybe it was, and maybe we just follow it. But I mean, it's so like layered, and it's cool to think about all this stuff. I mean, I've let go a lot of the fear about all of it. I mean, if there really are some like master organizers of life and we are just, you know, fulfilling our role or whatever, at least we can choose happiness in it.
Right. Yes, we always have that choice.
Yeah,
we do. And there's always the path. There's always, you know, which path are you going to take? Are you going to take the path of suffering? Or are you going to take the path of happiness?
Yeah.
You know, of fulfillment, of expression. Because whether it's preordained or not, we still have to go through the expression of it, the discovery of it, and the expression of it. You know, it's like, how much do we really invent? Is everything discovered? I mean, in mathematics, there's been the argument since, you know, Plato, if mathematics was discovered or invented.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, but there's so much fun. And even that's the hero's journey, the fun of uncovering, you know, and getting into that, being an explorer, you know, getting into the adventure of life. Because we do have to choose what adventure we're going on, whether, you know, it was there already and, you know, we all had one choice of 10. It doesn't matter. We still have to choose the adventure.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny too. I keep thinking of like video games a lot. And like when I was younger playing Mario, like I could play that game and beat it like 20 times in a row, and I still liked playing it. Like I knew everything that was going to happen, but it was still fun to keep doing it.
Right. Yeah, because, well, oh, that's such a wonderful point, because this is a cycle that continues and continues and continues. And when you get into the appreciation of refinement, that's when life really becomes, oh, so pure and so wonderful, because it's not, why is this happening to me? It's like, oh, wow, what can I do with this? What is the opportunity?
Right.
You know, and it's this refinement that never ends, and it's just like polishing a pearl or something. I just love refinement. When you see something that's so well done, it's something that had someone's attention. You can feel it. It feels alive.
I know, that's always, when I got into in my undergrad, when I was in like quote art school, and I went into graphic design, which is different than fine arts in my opinion, because it's using, digital stuff. And I always thought it was like interesting that in like fine art, I almost had more, I don't want to say respect, but like adoration or something, because it's just so, to just think of how long some people have worked on art pieces. I mean, 10, 20 years, some things, or you look at some of the churches that have been built, and it's like literally people were enslaved to working on some of these monuments and never saw it finished. They just did one little portion, and they were built over 200 years or something. And now we can look at it and be so marveled.
Yeah, but you can feel the energy and things like that.
Yeah.
And even in ourselves, when you just try to get something done real fast and just try to follow the system and what was said to be done, what said that was going to make you happy, or, just hit this goal for that reason or that, and it doesn't really include you. It's just something out there.
Yeah.
It feels empty. Oh gosh, I was so bad one time. This is totally off subject, but I couldn't believe I was so insulted. I go into this store, and there's a sundress, and I was okay, and I looked at it. I mean, it was it was nice. It was kind of nice. I mean, but I don't know why I looked at the price tag. So I looked at the price tag of the sundress, and it was $500.
Oh my
God.
I
was like, $500. I was just like, and I'm looking at the stitching. I'm really looking at it, seeing if there was something I could really appreciate, some refinement there. And I couldn't get it. So I said to the lady, I'm going, my gosh, why is this so much? And she goes, oh, it's a da-da-da-da-da-da, some designer name. And I was just like, now that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I was so pissed. I mean, you can see the energy now. I couldn't believe how upset I was over this, that, it was because of some name, and I couldn't appreciate the beauty in the thing. I wasn't beautiful stitching. I was looking at the material. I was looking at the thing for so long to see if I could get it.
And it's funny that you say that, because I toyed around with like doing this joint venture with someone, this clothing line thing. And my whole part was coming from like, I really want to get things that are ethically sourced. And like, I get that it's going to be a little bit more expensive to like pay for something that, does things the right way or whatever. But I think of that all the time there's a lot of designers that could give like, they don't care at all that it's, slave labor sewing their stuff or whatever. And it's like, why am I paying? Yeah. Like there's nothing behind this. There's no meaning behind this other than it can be charged this much.
But I think we're all suffering from that. Because you can feel that when there's an absence of energy and you're just being ripped off, or you're just consuming. You're just, because and there's no real energy, nothing really backing it but some name.
I'm amazed right now. I don't know if you've been noticing this, but I went to Walgreens the other day, and I mean, just the shelves of things that are being discontinued and just like marked out. And I'm like, wow, they're just not going to produce this stuff anymore, because like production generally is just really down right now, with people not going to factories as much and cutting shifts and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, this is like at least a good start to like a more sustainable path. And it's tricky. People don't seem to really put it all together, that ultimately we all suffer when we, even as consumers, just partake in really bad practices.
Yeah. Well, and the whole point is it's empty, so it's not nourishing. It's like, it's like eating, I mean, that's like fast food and stuff, eating stuff that is missing in nutrients. What is that going to do? It's just going to be turned into waste.
Just be totally delicious. That's what it's going to do.
Totally delicious waste?
Yes.
What? Oh God. I'm like, oh, what?
I know. I'm still thinking about McDonald's.
Oh God. Yeah, we were on that yesterday too. But yeah, I mean, until we start doing that for ourselves, that's what's so great about you doing coaching, or even our group, we're working on refining ourselves, I think, because it has to come from the inside. So I don't know if things are going to change until, as a society, that becomes the norm to consider, because it has to come from within, that we consider nurturing ourselves and nurturing our expression and valuing,
it's so, I mean, God, you're hitting so many good points, because even like I said, what Rachel and I were talking about, I said, God, Rachel, it feels so overwhelming at this. Like, there's just so many bad actors, and how do we chase them all down? And I don't want to waste my time doing this. And we both kind of came to the decision. I was like, I just want to focus on bringing the new in. And at that point, the only thing I think we can really do is try to educate consumers, because whatever we demand will be supplied to us.
Thank you. Yes.
So the need will be fulfilled. And so I think it's really up to each individual person. And I know it can be overwhelming, but we really do have, and I get people can't change overnight, but just start thinking about this stuff a little more. Like, how do things feel when you're just buying cheap and easy, quick and dirty,
Right. And yeah, because for me, like going into a Target or a Walmart or something, I'm like, yes, it costs less, but the emptiness of it is hard for me to put on my body. It's hard for me. I look for things that I feel that is nurturing me, and so that is, going back to our number 8 is to, it does have to come from within, and it has to be at the place where we value ourselves.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And until we do that, and it's hard being the minority and wanting to value yourself, the minority in anything. But it is so worth it to claim who you are. It doesn't matter, and not to let that affect you,
Well, I think that's even, a lot of what I had to overcome was just poverty mindset, was just, vacant consumerism and really deciding that, I'm not going to call anyone out in my life right now, but I definitely was raised, well, I guess I just did. Sorry, Mom. But it was raised on like, just buy the cheapest stuff. But this is also somebody who came from abject poverty. So I can't negate what she went through, but even coming to my 8 point and just being like, I have to choose something different. And I know that like, you're not going to agree with it, or you're not going to understand it, or whatever. You're going to think that's too expensive or whatever. But,
but it's changing the priorities, because also to the 8, I'm so wonderful on your segue, because 8 is also scarcity, and it's doubt. So either we feel connected and we realize the prosperity and prosper of this, we're in God. That's what God is. Or we're faking it and we're saying, I do believe in that, but there's not enough.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of all the affirmations. I am abundant. Yeah. And just whether we're coming from, God will provide, or it's all available. I just need to figure it out and keep that vision, or,
but that God will provide. You can tell the people where it's just a head thought versus knowing a need. As soon as you have the need, it's fulfilled. Because remember, need and idea are the same. They're number 1. So you can be in a place of need from a place of, abject poverty, from the place of scarcity, from the place of I won't have, from the place of as soon as you have the need, you know that need is going to be your curse. That's it for life. Or you can be in a place of need because you have an inspired desire. And so therefore you need, and that need is fulfilled. Because as soon as you have a need, I don't know where in the Bible that is, where it says something. As soon as you have this need, it is fulfilled.
Ask and you shall receive.
So that is, so there's two, there's a path. Because if you're going down the path of the path where you go, and you're climbing up the mountain, and you have to watch every penny, and you know, and when you're raised that way, believe me, shedding that's hard. Because it's something we've learned. It's become a belief. But if you look at your feelings, you'll know it doesn't feel right. Something's off. Penny
wise and pound foolish.
Right. but just to appreciate the need is the one. And the 8 is a need fulfilled. So if you take that hero's journey from the standpoint of knowing that need, you're on the path to really learning and realizing how that need is to be fulfilled and how that need is always fulfilled. And you're refining that need every time. And you're just going and going and going, or I should say smiling down, whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Oscillating.
and that's when life is really rich, you know, no matter what the circumstances.
And I think if, you know, this whole series is really about being conscious creators in the creative process. And it's like human beings, we've been gifted this ability to problem solve, to puzzle solve, to organize energy. I mean, this is kind of what separates us from the other levels of consciousness. So, I mean, oftentimes, and even myself included, you know, we run into these problems and we don't realize that they're just such opportunities to let the field support us and to tap into that void or whatever we need to do. But we always have the ability to problem solve.
Yeah, and when you know God, you know, also the 8 is emotional freedom.
Yeah.
As you're understanding more and more, don't you feel emotionally free?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
those things are overrated.
There was some quote, you know, the only real freedom is freedom from fear. And it's like, it's so true. It's like once you're free from that lack mentality, that fear mentality, that greed mentality, the whole world opens up.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So we're at 40 minutes. We just can go.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh. Oh my Lord. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So this was, I mean, we obviously, like you said yesterday, how far can you get on the topic of God in 30, 40 minutes? But we did good.
We did good. Yeah. We came from many different angles on there, but you know, it's so important to realize to get out of that personification and, you know, because then you can get so much more out of what's being said in the Bible. If you take that person out of it, because there are a lot of great statements, like you can't have more than one master. Who are you serving? You know? And even in yourself, am I serving the government? Am I serving God? You know?
Yeah. Well, everyone's going to be asking themselves that probably pretty soon.
Right.
So I was just reading about Chinese smart cities right before we got on this call. And it's wild. It's wild. I mean, and this is all in, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you know, there's people value different things, and it's just so interesting. This is all under the guise of both convenience and safety. It would be convenient and safe for us to be literally hooked up to the buildings and the trains and the things. Just all part of it.
Yeah. And what is that all feeding? Fear and greed.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a big step out of that, but it is so worth it because you don't have emotional freedom. You don't have any kind of freedom within yourself, you know, or anything until you take that step. You take that hero's journey. You know what God, who or what, not a who, what God really is, and who you are. You know, who we are. That's the whole journey of life. It's that constant, you know, who am I? Who am I? What is this? How's this work? Who, you know, what's the meaning here? How do I create the meaning?
Well, and it's interesting too, because I mean, even just on that, it seems like a lot of the goal is under this guise of like a unified consciousness, that you're going to have all these people that are in one city that are sort of just like seamlessly, they're interacting with each other through like biometric data, they're interacting with the buildings, with physical things. And it's just, I mean, on one hand, this is what so much of spirituality is about, right? We're all one. But then, you know, this very Western view, I guess, of this like personal freedom and this, I think it's just like we've got a real clash coming up soon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're in it now. I don't think a lot of people realize we're in it right now.
Oh,
but
we are.
It's only gonna heat up.
Science fiction has come, you know, and it's, you know, I mean, that could possibly not be a bad thing if we had different thinking, you know, where we were, you know, integrated totally with technology. I don't know. In your lifetime, it will be a totally different thing. Mine,
I know.
Might be able to skip this and not make a choice.
Well, I know.
Figure it out.
I think it's interesting because I really try to value everybody. You know, obviously there's a lot of people that value this. So what is the value in it, and what is, And where is God in all of it? But
yeah, and that's that. I mean, that can go you can see that in both two different ways. I mean, the path down the middle always is when that, those two forces of fear and greed comes to the center, and there's that middle path of presence of God, the presence, that balance. And yes, we're doing it because it's all efficient. And yeah, there are no secrets because we all can read each other's minds and telepathy and everything, Or it's just like, I can control you. You're hooked up to my system, and which is where we are right now with it. So that's what's kind of scary.
All right. Well, tomorrow we will discuss the nines. Like, this video is probably not going to load either.
It will. That was great yesterday. We got gifted.
Yeah, I replied on yours too. I think yesterday I rewatched it and I was like, God, I think it was my favorite one that we did so far.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I really liked our discussion yesterday. So, and this one was great too. So.
Great. All right.
We can finish on a high note tomorrow with the nine.
All right. Yeah, fabulous. All right. Well, thanks so much. It was wonderful. Have a good one.
Yes. See you later.
Bye-bye.